What up, everyone? I'm Jack Slater, aka the Comic Outlaw. Yeah! Hope you guys are out there listening. For I'm back. And all I gotta say is, all hail the king. You can applaud now. I know you're all applauding at home, wherever you are. Thank you. Thank you. But speaking of kings, it's Funko time. It's Funko time. Yes, it's Funko time. Fuck yes. You haven't done the song in a while. It's Funko time. Check it out. Jerry, the King Lawler. Why, pray tell, do they call him the King? For most of us, he's just a colored commentator. During the Attitude Era, he was famous for the phrase, puppies! But this man is so much more. He was the king of Memphis wrestling. He actually started out drawing. His drawings actually got attention from Mid-South wrestling, and he actually began kind of drawing for them, and then he had a radio station, he began wrestling, and then he began training, and then he became the king of Memphis wrestling by beating out a man named Fargo, I believe, and he got the title of the King. Now, he wrestled in Memphis primarily for most of his career, getting many a title. If you don't know, there was a movie made by Jim Carrey a while back where he kind of played Andy Kaufman, Man on the Moon, and yes, the rumors are true. Jim Carrey was a real dickhead during that show. You can actually watch Jim and Andy to get an idea of how big of a dick he was. All in the name of playing a character, of course. But anyways, him and Kaufman had an interaction, a world famous one that actually started this feud. There was a fight on David Letterman, and it really got a lot of star power to Memphis. And this is something that Vince's father actually turned down. So this was an opportunity that they ended up flushing. And Vince got, years later, actually admitted that he was really jealous that the King was able to accomplish this before he did. And the King had many different reigns, many different titles. Towards the end of the 90s, about 92, he combined with another company and they formed USWA. And they used to share talent with the WWE at this point, which the WWE had blown up. This is when the Hogan era was fading and the New Generation era was kind of coming to pass. And for you guys that don't know, the New Generation era was kind of hit and miss. I mean, they had great stars like Razor Ramon. They had the 1-2-3 Kid, Bret Hart. But they also had people like Duke the Dumpster Droese and other such characters like that. It was very cartoonish. It was kind of like what it was before the Attitude Era. Oh, Shawn Michaels was in it too, you know, like it was stale is the best word that I can describe it as. But anyways, the King made his appearance at this time, and he had the station still too. So they were able to bring WWF characters, or F at the time, to his station. They would kind of feud back and forth. Now, this also, Vince actually did this with several companies. He did this with ECW. He did this with several overseas companies. So this wasn't the first time that wrestling organizations had traded talent. Matter of fact, back in the old days, in the territorial days, they used to trade talent like that. Andre the Giant, for example, used to go from place to place to place to place because he would never win a title or anything, but he was such a phenomenon that he could go from one territory to another territory, and they would all gladly accept him. They all had a deal worked out. But the King, oh man, the King has won, like I said, a crap load of titles. Some say over 100. I'm not kidding. Now, I remember the King when he first came in '92. I was watching at that time. I remember his feud with Bret Hart, his time in the Royal Rumble, which he first premiered in the Rumble. I think he was number 7, something like that. He lasted for a good time. He got eliminated by Mr. Perfect. They got into a feud, but the interesting thing is the feud happened over on Jerry's station. And they were doing this thing that Vince McMahon was playing the heel, and that he was trying to take over Memphis Wrestling. That was the whole thing. So having two inner promotions work together, one's trying to take over the other. How does that? That sounds familiar. But anyways, Jerry got himself into some trouble. It stopped the trading for a while. There was accusations that he was with a younger girl. That all got pushed out of the way, of course. Jerry was vindicated. Went back to wrestling. He continued his feud with the likes of Bret Hart. This is where they got into that infamous Kiss My Foot match, where Jerry had to kiss Bret Hart's foot. And man, it is one of the funniest, most hilarious things you'll actually ever see. It's worth watching. Just for that. And just for the interviews. Jerry knew how to cut an interview. What made him so popular in Memphis was that he could cut a promo heel or babyface. So if you guys don't know, a heel is a bad guy, a babyface is a good guy. Just letting you know the lingo. Because he put a lot of comedy in it, like his commentary. That's who he was when he wrestled. He would take someone apart verbally and then beat the crap out of them. That's what made Jerry so popular in Memphis. And that's what makes him so popular now. He had matches with the likes of Jake the Snake Roberts. The whole booze thing, when he was pouring booze on him. Now, some say that was tasteful, like that it wasn't supposed to happen, but a little while prior, he had Bret Hart's toes in his mouth, so. And plus, they were both getting paid. Alright, like in wrestling, they tend to do this, you know what I mean? You have to take it with a grain of salt. Is it part of the storyline? Is it a work? Is complaining about it a work? You know what I mean? So you got to take that in stride. Jerry, of course, became one of the premier, and I mean premier announcers in the Attitude Era. Him and good old JR. Oh man, I loved the team of him and JR. JR just was a perfect straight man to Jerry. Like Jerry's colored commentary, his perverted ways, that he was such a lech, and that JR was such a conservative. They played off of each other so well. They're one of the best announced teams, bar none. I think they're one of the few teams that can rival Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan. That's how good they were. I mean, everyone says that Bobby and Gorilla were the original team as far as WWF. You know, they were the foundation, but the Attitude Era had these two wonderful announcers too, and many people compare them, and it goes back and forth. But bar none, one of the best announced teams. The Attitude Era was perfect for Jerry. He can tell dirty jokes. He can interview the divas. He can be a pervert. He can be a bit of a lech. And it just made for great television. Whenever, like, one of the ladies was taking off their robe and stuff like that, you could see Jerry all... He would literally turn into a cartoon wolf in front of you. I mean, that's how entertaining Jerry is. And still is. He still appears in certain shows. He wrestles every once in a while. He's still big in Memphis. He owns different businesses there. Like I said, Jerry has done a great job. And yes, he's never won a title in WWE, but he's won so many different titles. He's also the undisputed king of the World Wrestling, WWE now. A Hall of Famer. This man has done it all. He's worked with so many different people. He's had so many different feuds. He's even wrestled with Roddy Piper, which they both said the match wasn't that good, and it's just two completely different styles. Jerry has one style and Piper has another. It was like trying to get let me think about it. Rod Stewart and Motley Crue to do a song together. Both great bands or great groups in their own respect. Both have hits. Both have significant fans, but try to combine the two, it just probably wouldn't work. So, like I said, I've always been a big fan of Jerry Lawler. I was very happy to see this. I picked it up right away. I had to. It's going to make a great addition in my wrestling Funko collection, which you guys have seen some of. This guy's a perfect heel commentator. He's been imitated, but it's just hard to find anyone with the panache, the royalty of Jerry. Check it out. And I could actually sit here for about 30, 40 minutes and talk about Jerry Lawler. A wonderful artist. By the way, a comic book fan. For those that say that only comic book fans are geeks and wusses and can't throw a punch, nay, nay. This man at his age could still knock someone the fuck out. And this man loves Superman. And he's a wonderful artist. If you ever have the opportunity to see this man's drawings, it is worth the price of admission. This man is a wonderful artist. He draws Superman like nobody's business. He has a very 80s Superman. You know what I mean? That classic pre-crisis Superman. Or a little bit after. That's the form of Superman I see when he draws him. Very cool. But it's Funko time. It's Funko time. Fuck yes, it's Funko time. Let's open it up. No key to the city needed. Check it out. This is him in all of his splendor. This is where he came out in 1992. Classic King. And yes, there's been stories about the King. There's been stories about this and that. I suggest you research him. You'll find that there's a lot of stories, good and bad. And he's just an interesting character. I'm a big fan of his. I'm happy that it's in my collection. Check it out. I hope somewhere the King is watching while he's petting a pair of luscious puppies. And as always, I'm Jack Slater, the Comic Outlaw, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Yeah.